Okay, I'm gonna try to rush through this a bit. This is like, I'm kind of currently frustrated. I just finished recording like a half an hour review of this movie, and then I tried to rename the file, and then it like disappeared. I don't know where the hell it went, and I'm feeling kind of frustrated because it's already like 11:30, and I just finished recording it. Oh wait, no, it's gone. I don't know what the hell happened with that. That's never happened before. Okay, so I just went over so many good points too. I'm kind of mad. Just had finished it and I had some really good talk. Thankfully, I didn't delete my notes. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of rush through this a little more. Just, because I already just said what I said. So this, I watched The Fly, the 80s one. I didn't know that was a remake. This is the original. This one's kind of less of a horror and more of a whodunit kind of mystery. Well, not whodunit, but more of just like it's a mystery movie about this wife saying she killed her husband, and you don't figure out that he's turned into a fly until like later, like the first half an hour. I'm gonna skip through a lot of these notes just because they're kind of not really important. The first half an hour of this movie is just her being interrogated and stuff and her trying to find this fly, and you don't really understand what's happening until the story like actually starts. It's like kind of boring, but it's also necessary to the plot. But I do find it kind of funny that she's like interrogated. And normally it's like probably a scary thing, but like it's so calm. Like they're just doing it over tea and whatever. Um, but yeah, they're trying to find this one specific fly, and I thought the fly was gonna turn out to be the scientist guy that like gets turned into a fly, but it's not. It's actually um the fly that he didn't really get merged with it. It's like a separate being, and you get to see it at the end in this kind of a little bit scary scene of a fly with a human head with the ability to speak being eaten by a spider and eventually killed. And it ends up saving the wife character, the like love interest character, from having to get like locked away because no one believes her about like, oh, I killed my husband and he got like turned partially into a fly. It's not this fly though. It's he ends up as like a human with a fly head, and this is a fly with a human head. But it is kind of a scary scene of like the fly is like screaming for help. The spider looks kind of scary, and apparently it's like the scene everyone remembers from this movie. Like it's kind of funny with the effects and like the high pitched voice, but it's also just like kind of scary when you think about it. Of like this now suddenly sentient fly with like the ability to speak is about to be like eaten alive and stuff. Okay, what else? There's a child character. He ends up being plot important too, but like once the story finally starts, he's kind of not really in the picture anymore. He has this line about like, you know how women are when he's talking to Vincent. Oh yeah, Vincent Price is in this movie, but he's like a side character. He's only really there at the beginning and the end. And that line was just so weird to hear from a child. But yeah, the first 25 minutes of this is just like characters talking about like what's happened and whatever. And then the story finally starts and we meet the scientist character. I think it's interesting for this that with the 80s one, he's like this guy that like lives alone. He falls in love with Gina Davis's character and stuff. And it's kind of more of like a sexual but like sad kind of body horror story. But then with this, it's like he has a wife, they have a son, so he already has like a family and stuff. But the romance and the drama like is still like an important thing with the plot and stuff. Where she's like this 50s housewife. And with that, I was worried the movie was gonna be like kind of. I always get worried with like older movies of like, oh, is it gonna be like sexist or something? Not as much as I thought. Like she's still like kind of has a way too over the top reaction to finally seeing her husband's transformation, but she like gets to be involved with his like machines and stuff. Not that she's a scientist herself or knows what's going on, but like he explains things to her. He doesn't dumb it down or anything. They end up having a really interesting conversation later in the movie about like technology and how fast it's progressing. And like, even though we didn't get, teleportation in the 50s and we still don't have it, I find that conversation interesting because, like, a lot of things were being invented at the time of like TV and all these things coming out. And I like that the movie, the characters get to reflect on that and stuff. I wasn't expecting something like that. There's this part where the family cat ends up getting teleport or as like a test subject or something for the teleportation thing. It made me really sad. First off, the cat is so cute. It's this like fluffy white cat, and I'm like, okay, if you're gonna start testing animals and like testing sentient beings, why did you decide to use your family cat as your first test subject? What if something went wrong? And something does go wrong. Thankfully, it's not as graphic or really graphic at all as the baboon in the 80s movie being literally turned inside out. That was horrifying. The cat has an equally horrifying fate, but it's different, where instead it gets dematerialized out of existence, but it doesn't get put back together or anything. And it's kind of scary in that you don't see the cat anymore, but you can hear its meowing, and it's explained later that it got split up into atoms, but it still, like, technically exists. And that is probably horrifying, not just for a cat, but, like, for anyone of, like, imagine you exist, and then suddenly you don't have a physical form anymore, but you're still forced to exist. And, like, it's a cat, bro. It doesn't even know what's happening or anything. I felt so sorry for the poor little creature. And then later on they test on a guinea pig, and the guinea pig ends up being fine. But like, why didn't you test on a guinea pig first? It's not like he planned to use the family cat. It's just kind of like a spur of the moment thing. But like, dude, come on. There's also a scene where they end up going to a ballet, and we actually do get to see the ballet. It's not like plot important or anything, but I thought it looked pretty. And a lot of this movie is actually kind of chill up until the point where the main character gets turned into a fly and stuff. But I am disappointed we don't actually get to see that scene like we do in the remake. It's actually not even that horrifying. There really isn't like body horror to the degree of like the remake or anything. It actually looks kind of funny, if anything, where he just becomes a guy with a fly head and a fly hand, and physically that's literally it. There's like nothing else to that transformation. It's kind of funny, and it's kind of sad because like the poster of this is like this woman who's freaked out, and it's like there's the monster, there's like a giant fly, but then when you actually watch the movie, it's like this tragedy about this husband and wife that like very clearly still love each other, and they're both desperately trying to figure out how to reverse this. And he's just a guy with a fly head. He's not like monstrous looking or anything, and he still has his intelligence and personality. He just does not have the ability to speak. And the fly head is actually a reveal, if anything, where he wears a hood most of the time. You can tell, you get hints that he's turned into a fly, where there's like slurping noises and stuff when he drinks things, and the fact that he just doesn't talk or anything. He just ends up leaving notes to his wife, and it's kind of interesting. It reminds me of diary entries where he writes about, and he's there writing them. It's not like not like she's just finding these notes much later, of like that he's losing the ability to think and stuff. So like mentally there's definitely some changes going on, but like you don't physically see that. I mean, you do at least physically get to see like it's representative, like the fly taking over, of like he has this habit of grabbing his fly hand sometimes, I think, to kind of like almost suppress it in a sense, and it's kind of interesting. But he's still able to use his human hand. Like there's a point where he ends up stroking his wife's cheek, or there's this other part that made me sad, where his wife faints after seeing his head, and he ends up trying to touch her, but he touches her with the fly hand first, and then has to remember to switch to like his human hand. Or there's a part where he's writing and his handwriting goes from like cursive to being a little more scribbly until he just writes in big letters the words "love you." That made me kind of sad. And she tries to be so hopeful about him, of like trying to find a solution. She tells him like, "Let me see your face, I won't be afraid," even though this is literally the woman that screamed from seeing his fly hands. um I think the fly head looks kind of cool actually, but I do feel bad for him, of like he's losing his intelligence and stuff. But even before that happens, he already is like, "Hey, if you don't find the fly to get to turn me back to normal, just destroy me." And then he eventually destroys his equipment, and at that point it's like, okay, he can't reverse himself or anything. And then the movie gets kind of fast, where he ends up on this like hydraulic press and has his wife set it to like crush him to death, but it's mostly like just to crush his head. And then they do end up finding the fly, and killing it, and then the movie just ends there. That's it. So ending wise, it's kind of whatever. I mean, the scene of the fly creature in the web is kind of a bit spooky. So that kind of makes a memorable ending, but other than that, it just kind of ends. Well, no, they do tell the little boy at the end of like, "Hey, your father's dead," but they explain it as like, "Oh, he was searching for the truth and whatever," and like not mentioning of like, "Hey, he turned into a fly head and lost its humanity and stuff." I think I still do prefer the 80s remake, even though I hate the body horror. I feel like it makes the movie more memorable, and actually getting to see the transformation physically of like slowly turning into a fly adds to the horror and like tragedy of it all. I feel mixed on that in this one. The scientist doesn't have the ability to speak, rather than like losing it over time. But I do find it interesting of like he leaves notes to his wife, and he still has like his body language and stuff. But I'm glad I watched this anyway. It's kind of nice to compare. I wish I could have made this review longer. I don't know if this is even going to get saved either. I hope it is, because I really want to make a review in this movie, and if I have to like say all this stuff for like a third time in a row, I'm going to be just kind of over it at this point. Actually, if this doesn't save, I might even just type this one out, as like a written post or something. But yeah, it was okay as a movie, better than I expected, but still also exactly what I expected. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think out of the two, I'd still recommend the 80s movie, but if you've seen it and you're still kind of curious, I think the concept here is good. I think recommend it just to see both. It's kind of fun to compare, like I said. All right, I'm going to try to go to bed this time. Bye-bye.